Hi, everyone. George Christie here with Wine Industry Network. Welcome to another episode in the WIN Educational Webinar Series. Now, today's session is titled How Online Discovery is Transforming the Wine Industry in 2022, and it's sponsored by Pix. Now, I imagine that most of you in the wine industry have already heard about Pix. It's the fastest growing online discovery platform, I believe, for wine in the world. And it's turning out to be the game changer that I think we all thought it might be. That said, there's still a lot of questions that people have about, how much does it cost and how exactly does it work and what exactly are the benefits of being a part of Pix. This presentation is going to address all of that and more. We're really lucky. We've got Kristen Muir with us. Kristen is the National Sales Director at Pix. And I think she does just an outstanding job of helping make what's, incredibly technologically advanced simple to understand. And she really does dive in on what exactly are the benefits, not only to the winery, to the retailers out there, but probably most importantly to the consumer, right? Because that's really what it's all about, right? Making this easy for the consumer. Kristen does a great job. I think you're going to enjoy the presentation. Now, before we bring Kristen onto our virtual stage, just a couple of reminders. We always pre-record these sessions a couple of days in advance, and we do that so that you can ask questions while you're watching the presentation. Kristen's going to be watching the broadcast right alongside you. She'll be in the chat room, so you don't need to wait till the end of the presentation to pop those questions in. She'll take those questions as they come into the room, so please take advantage of that. We want to make sure you get the most out of your time that you spend with us today. I think that about covers it. I want to thank Pix again for their sponsorship that allows us to put these presentations on for free. I want to thank Kristen for being with us today. And most importantly, I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this session. All right, Kristen, I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you, George, so much for the introduction. I'm Kristen with Pix. It is such a pleasure to be here today. Pix launched January 12th, and we are currently the fastest growing, second largest wine selection online. I'm here today to talk a little bit about how online discovery is transforming the wine industry in 2022. So just to give you a brief background, I'm Kristen. I've been in the industry for, over 10 years now. I've done a little bit of everything as far as representing producers. I have dragged a bag on the East Coast, walking in and out of retail shops. I've visited numerous producers abroad. I've worked for a Napa Valley winery as a brand ambassador. I've done national sales, calling on all of the key markets all over the US. And ultimately, at the end of the day, every time I sit down with these producers, the question has always been, how do I reach more consumers? How does my story get told? How do I create brand awareness? So Pix is one of the first to be all-encompassing in the industry, to support all tiers. We are a friend to everyone. And essentially, we want to promote wine cellars all over the US to tell your story. If I become the busiest brand ambassador in the world, then I'm doing my job. So just to give some insight, as we launched January 12th as the fastest growing wine selection online, you may have heard of us, you may not have heard of us just yet. Some of the ways that you may have stumbled upon Pix, just after launching, we released that we have a partnership with Wine Advocate. So now there is a single location for the consumer to go when a wine is reviewed to essentially find out what are my options for purchasing in the US. We have a number of amazing wine writers, bloggers, influencers in the industry that have been talking about Pix. And additionally, you may have seen one of our collections on social media. So ultimately, what it comes down to is there are so many options of wine in the world. And how does a consumer hear your story? The goal at Pix is to become an endless digital wine shelf, a library of wines, if you will. When we think about other industries, let's say music, movies, books, other industries have fostered discovery with incredible resources. We have Spotify for music, we have Netflix for movies, and we have Audible and Kindle. And essentially what this does for the consumer is allows all of the options available to you. And that's exactly what we're accomplishing with Pix. I think it's incredibly important when we walk through the platform to acknowledge that there is the element of technology. The AI is incredible. You'll notice that we are still in beta if you start searching on Pix today. And what that means is that we just recently launched. We're still new. We're evolving on a daily basis. We're asking you to help make us better. But with that incredible technology, there's also a human element. So as Pix evolves, the platform will become more automatic in how it enriches listings. But at the moment, we have a team of experts behind the scene working around the clock. This team of experts is led by an MW. We have incredible students from the Napa Valley Wine Institute, because when it comes down to it, wine is incredibly complex, and the human element does need to exist to be there. So with Pix Discovery, of course, just like Google, there is a search bar. What are my options? So if you go to Pix and you have an idea in mind, maybe it's the producer's name, maybe it's the region that you're looking for, maybe you went to have dinner with friends one night and you remembered a little snippet of that label, you can type in the search bar, "I'm looking for," and Pix will release results. So when Pix decided on how to frame these search results, we thought about the consumer first. What are the consumer's needs? And essentially, what they found is that it's not just always about the lowest price. So considering a consumer may have visited a winery and they love all of the selections, not just, the Cabernet that is in broad distribution, but they wanted some of the smaller selection library wines. So they may want to buy direct from the producer. And as a producer, that will always be the first listing and clearly tagged producer, so that the consumer knows they're buying directly from the winery. But then also to support other tiers of the industry and retail, in the retail segment, we list by the best deal, we list by, which will be incredibly fascinating within the next month. This is the retailer nearest you, because frankly, it might be Friday at 5 p.m. and you want to be drinking that wine within the next hour. Or we've all been in that state where we're late to giving a gift and you need that wine shipped as quickly as possible across the country. So we're going to list that retailer as well. I think it's important to note as well that whether it's directly from the producer or from the retailer, we are in no part of the transaction. All of this is directed outward, just as Google does. So we are here to support you and to list you, but ultimately at that point of purchase, you're keeping all of the customer information and developing a relationship for years to come. So this is where, with this giant library of wine, Pix becomes incredibly fascinating. So with over 5,000 wine cellars in the US, 500,000 products in the database, that can very much create a shopper overwhelm. So what a collection will do is it will organize the wines according to a specific theme, a specific occasion, region, grape varietals. So one of our first collection highlights was on New Zealand. So for an entire week, we focused on all of the wines of New Zealand, whether it be Pinot Noirs or Sauvignon Blancs and various subregions. And what we found is that the consumer does in fact love shrinking the world of wine and making it smaller. Collections on Pix are currently seeing 30% of the clicks. So in this vast world of wine, the consumer is loving when we shrink it down to a specific topic. So, and these collections represent a variety of different themes. So it could be for International Women's Day, females in the industry. For Earth Day will represent B Corps and sustainable wineries. Be based on a season, poolside sippers, considering we're entering the spring and the summertime. We have experts like Christina Mercury highlighting the next hot grapes of Italy. These collections are constantly rotating, but the benefit is that they exist forever. You can search on Pix for these collections. They will never go away. And as a producer, you can become more discoverable just in general search, but also in our collections. So in fostering discovery and thinking of others that have done it very well, we look to our friends at Netflix. So I don't know if you remember, but years ago, Netflix was just a giant library of movies and TV shows. There was actually a point where I was in the process of discontinuing my subscription with Netflix. And I remember it was incredibly difficult to do. They kept coming back to me, why are you canceling? And ultimately it was too much effort to cancel, so I didn't. But I'm glad that I didn't, because ultimately what was happening was that I was overwhelmed and shutting down. And so Netflix got smarter and they created something called meta tags. And with these meta tags, it's essentially 3 descriptor words. In a blink of an eye, the consumer knows what to expect when they click further into that movie. So it's more of a brief story of what this wine will become. So essentially, the feel, the flavor, and the story helps convert shoppers into buyers. Ultimately, the story is yours, which is why the traffic is clicked outward to your site or to one of your best retail partners in the US. And when they click through, then they get to read the further description and learn all that is wonderful about your winery. But with these descriptors, they get a general sense of, how do I picture myself pouring this wine? And one of the most fascinating elements is oftentimes the story really represents social and environmental values that are incredibly important to the consumer now. That story might be BIPOC winery, sustainable, female winemaker, dinner with friends, so that the consumer can picture themselves pouring your bottle of wine. They've been tested by our team of experts. We're constantly testing different words and which ones are clicked through the most. But essentially what it comes down to is this idea of the feel, the flavor, and the story. Also, all of these tags are clickable. So you can click on a sustainable tag. And what it will do is it will organize within the database all of the wines that are tagged sustainable. And once you're there, you can filter further. Let's say you want a sustainable wine, $20 to $40, Pinot Noir from California. At that point, you're shrinking the database from 2,000 wines down to 200, down to 50, and sometimes down to just even 10 wines. So ultimately, we've entered a new era of online wine discovery with incredible retail coverage. If you're going to know all of the options on how to buy this wine, ultimately, we need to pair with the best wine sellers in the US and the best wineries. Some of our sellers are small DTC wineries that only produce 500 cases. Ultimately, we're here to support independent retail and some of the best producers all over the US. We know that tags are proven to convert shoppers into buyers, and these collections foster this element of discovery to shrink this large database into areas of interest to the consumer. You may have also heard of us from the Drop. So we have incredible writers that are writing for the Drop. It is completely free of commercial interference, which is one of the best elements of this. So the whole idea behind the Drop is to be educational, insightful, connect with the consumer. And we on the Pix team often say it's separation of church and state. So we can give them ideas, but at no point do they have to take them. So it's completely honest. One of my favorite articles written every month is wine horoscopes. So it's also supposed to be approachable to the consumer. It's supposed to be fun and enlightening and lighthearted. And they give you bottle recommendations as well at the end of each post. So integrating with Pix is actually incredibly easy. We integrate via Google shopping feeds. And the reason that we do that, and I should specify by saying you don't need to be on Google. You don't have to have a Google merchant account set up. It's just the type of feed that we integrate with. Essentially, it's just a product feed. And what that product feed carries is your listing, your bottle image, whether it's an inventory or not. It's in the form of a link so that we can automatically refresh on a daily basis so that we are accurately displaying you as a producer. And we do this, we have various ways of doing this with different e-commerce systems. So Thankfully, we have a direct integration with Vino Shipper and Commerce 7. If you're listed on one of those platforms, it's incredibly easy. Sometimes it's just a matter of clicking on a button to say, I want to be on Pix. And there's no further catch. It's free to list with us. With others, we have easy plugins. And then if it's a little bit more complicated based on your system, then we get you in touch with our friends at Data Feed Watch, and they're able to generate a feed for us. I'm typically in touch with marketing managers and web developers. Whatever it may be, I'm here to help create that feed to link with Pix and showcase your selections. So ultimately, our job at Pix is to make your wine discoverable. I'm here to support you. Like I said earlier, my goal is to become the world's best brand ambassador. And if that means selling more through your DTC network, let's do it. If that means that we want to increase your retail network across the US because they've been great partners to you, we're here to do that and to foster that. Oftentimes it's a blend of the two. We believe that both can coexist to generate more sales for you. Ultimately, it's about brand awareness. We want to build your brand on the endless digital shelf. And I'm here to do that, and I'm here to listen. Contact us, and we're excited to hear from you. Thank you.